All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakodash. Double honors to our apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessing and many salutations unto you elect across the four winds of this earth, fulfilling your lots in all truth and all sincerity. I'm the brother Sha'ar from the Great Millstone Dallas branch, coming at you all with another lesson through the Spirit. And Lord's willing, this lesson here is edifying unto the flock. And what I want to touch upon today is going to be I want to share a testimony of a vision that the Spirit had sent to me last night when I was asleep. And I almost didn't do the lesson until I'm having a conversation with a brother. And as we was talking, the Spirit had it where the Spirit moved me to want to talk about it just throughout our conversation. You know, and it was one of those dreams that you don't necessarily remember immediately when you wake up. But I say about an hour after I woke up, I was heading to my car and I looked at the sky. And immediately when I looked at the sky, I remembered the dream that I had last night instantly. I remember the vision that the Lord had given me. And the reason why I do want to share this is going to be based on a lesson that I did yesterday as pertaining to detaching from this world. And when you detach from these particular things, the Lord opens you up to receive more of an abundance of those spiritual blessings. And that's what I believe was one of the reasons why the Lord had given me that dream, because I had to detach from something in that dream, in that vision. So without further ado, I'll go into it. And Lord's willing, this is edifying and encouraging. So in my dream, I was in my car and I parked at this store. It was like a store. I can't remember exactly what store it is, but I went inside and I came back outside and my car was gone. Like it was stolen. And at that moment, I didn't even trip. I wasn't even fazed. For some reason, I wasn't fazed and I wasn't mad. I was a little annoyed. But how my reaction to it was like if you was to walk outside and see you have a flat tire on a day that you really don't have anything to do. You know, let's say it might be your off day and you have a flat tire. You might not be as mad as if you've walked outside and you have a flat tire when you got to go to work. So the reaction to it was like I just had a flat tire. I wasn't really mad. I wasn't really upset. My main objective was ultimately just to get to the brothers, because that's where I was on my way going in my dream. I was on my way to link up with the congregation. And this wasn't even in Dallas. Like, I don't know where I was. You know, the area was like pretty hilly. When I say hilly, like if you think of like San Francisco, there's a lot of buildings that are like built on slopes and hills and such. That was the scenery of this area that I was at. So when I walked outside and I saw my car was missing, I was like, ah, shit, you know. So I ended up just walking to my destination. And it was in the process of the sun going down when I stopped at the store and such. So as I'm walking, it's just getting darker outside, and I finally get to my destination. So once I got to my destination, I'm with the brothers. There wasn't even any familiar faces from this camp that I can think about. But I know that they were brothers. I know that this was the congregation, you know, this was the assembly. So as we're all together, we're fellowshipping, we're all looking toward the heavens, and it was a very cloudy evening. It was tons of clouds that was in the sky. And as we was looking in the clouds, I made mention, like, what if there was chariots all behind these clouds? What if these clouds dispersed and disappeared? And we see chariots manifest. So immediately when I made that statement in this vision, the cloud disappeared. It started dissipating very slowly. And as it started dissipating, you saw what was behind all these clouds. And it looked like thousands and thousands of stars. Like when you see the night sky without artificial lighting, all the stars that are in the heavens. I've never been graced to be able to see that, but I know certain of you all might be able to vouch on that. When you look in the sky, when there's no artificial lighting, in the air and such. You see tons of stars. Well, that's how it was behind these clouds. When the clouds started disappearing, you saw thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of stars. They filled up the whole night sky. So I made a little joke, pretty much like, well, hey, they might not be chariots, but hey, at least we get to see a sky full of stars. So immediately when I said that, one of the brothers was like, hold on, bro. No, check this out. Look. And I looked back up. We looked back up, and those stars started moving. They were chariots. It was thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of chariots that was moving across the sky. Some of them was getting real bright. Some of them was dimming down. They was pulsating to a degree. For those of y'all that see chariots move in the sky or saw a chariot move, if you notice, there's like a pattern that they might go. It might look very faint, and then it'll get very bright, and it might get faint again. Well, that's what they all were doing. And then I looked up another direction, and I seen, the best way I can put it, they were chariots, I believe, but they were floating stones. Like they were amethyst stones, giant amethyst stones that were pulsating and giving out light. And there was 3 of them. It was like the form of a triangle. Not that the amethyst stones were triangle shaped, but there was 1 in front and there was 2 in the back, like 1 up top, 2 at the bottom. And they were glowing. You know how that amethyst has that pinkish purple color? And it's like they were pulsating too, like those chariots were, like they were alive, like those stones were alive. Made me think about lively stones when I meditated on the dream even further. And they would shine really bright, like a pinkish purplish color. And then it would dim down, and it would shine like a pinkish purplish color, and it would dim down, kind of like a pulse, like a heartbeat. They would shine, they would dim down. They would shine, they would dim down. Like a human that has a heartbeat or a breath, or you breathe in and you breathe out. That's what I meant when I saw those. And they were just like amethyst stone nuggets, but they were chariots, but they were amethyst stones just floating. And the reaction to it, bros, was praising the Lord hard, praising the Lord very heavily. You know what I'm saying? So in the midst of that, as we're praising the Lord, there's other brothers that reacted, yo, call Lord Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, real loud. And I'm thinking, it's just the chariots, they like, look. And I'm looking and they see something. So I'm kind of in my mind like, oh yeah, I see it too. But I didn't, because I'm like, okay, I see these chariots moving. I see these stone-shaped chariots that look like amethyst stones moving. So part of me was like, yeah, I see it. But they was talking about something different. Mind you, also too, we were like looking at the sky, but there was this wooden fence that was in front of us. So immediately I'm like, yo, what y'all saw something else? A few brothers seen it, a few brothers didn't. So in the midst of that, there was an angel. It was an actual angel. And he was on the other side of the fence, and he started hovering. He started floating over the fence. And the way that he was standing, it was like he was standing on thin air. Like, how we stand on a ground, how we know that there's a surface under us. The way we stand, there's a surface under us. There was nothing under his feet, but he's just hovering and he's floating. And the look of this being looked very, the best way I could put it is powerful. His skin, his arms were black as a black Air Force One. Black as a black shirt. It wasn't like he had a hue of brown in him. No, he was solid black, and I didn't see his face. I couldn't see his face, even though he was looking at us. And the reason why I couldn't see his face, because his apparel, what he was wearing, was glowing so immensely. The best way I could put it, it was like a very bright white with a blue essence. And that's the best way I can put it, like glow in the dark neon blue, like a very white. It's white, but it had a blue essence. And now that I'm thinking about it, it might have been the borders of his garment mixed with that white glow, which made it look kind of bluish. But it was like a neon white blue essence, like a glow. And the light that was shining from that was like it was very bright. It was extremely bright. It was otherworldly. And as you see this picture that I put here in the background, just for this part that I'm mentioning it, as you see the angel sitting there, or that image of Yahweh Shai, as we believe what he looks like. I'm not saying that this angel was Yahweh Shai. This was obviously an angel. But going into the apparel, as you see in the background of this image right here, and just that glow, it was very similar to that. But the only difference was it was way brighter than that. It's way brighter than this. Extremely brighter. There was nothing I've seen in my life this bright. Again, it was a glow that was radiating off of him. And when I tell you his headpiece that he had on, this piece that was on his head looked very royal. It looked very ancient. His apparel looked very ancient, but that headpiece looked very ancient, but it looked very royal. That's why I had this picture of Idris Elba here in the background. As you see, this headpiece that he had on, it was very similar to that. The only difference was, it was a few little differences, but it's very similar to this. But as you see Idris Elba, those pieces that are sticking up, the angel didn't have the pieces sticking up, but they went backwards, like they were the shape like wings. Kind of like the mindset of, the false god Hermes, that Greek god Hermes, how he has a headpiece and he has the wings that are attached to the side of his head. That's the best way that I can put it. Not that they were physical wings on his head. You know what I'm saying? You can tell that they were crafted, but they were shaped like wings that was on his head. And again, I couldn't see his face, but as he's hovering, looking down at us, you can tell that it was a very emotionless countenance that he had. I remember the brother out there, Big Judah, out there in L.A., Monatazak, he had a dream about brothers getting delivered in a chariot, and he said he saw those angels, and he said they had a very stoic look. And that's the best way that I can describe the countenance of this being, the countenance of this angel. He had a very stoic countenance. And he's hovering. Again, it's like he's standing on something, but he's standing on thin air. But he's standing and he's hovering on the air, and he's hovering and he's floating over us. And we're just praising the Lord at this moment. We're all praising the Lord at this moment. Call Halal Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. And he hovers over us and he lands in front of us on the ground. Now, when I say his height, it was like his height was the same height as ours. But something strange that I did notice too, when we were standing in front of that fence was taller than us. But as he started hovering and we're looking and we see it, for some odd reason, we stood taller than the fence. So I don't know if we grew or if he was tall as hell and for some reason we got tall. I don't know. You know how visions and dreams can be weird sometimes. But I will say he was about our height. He was about our height when we was looking at him. And he's standing in front of us. And then he turns around and he starts walking away. And I'm like, please come back. Please come back. Please, Baba Kashaw, please come back and be amongst us. And then he stopped. And now, again, his back is towards us now because he turned around and started walking off. And his back is towards us. But when I mentioned that, he stopped. And he turned his head. You know how, for example, if somebody's walking away from you and you call them and they stop and they turn their head a little bit, that's what he did, and then the dream was over after that. But it was very special to me, especially since I did that lesson yesterday going on detaching. And one thing that I noticed, the first scene in that vision was how I had my car there. And it's not like I'm attached to my car. I'm not. Obviously, it's a reliable transportation to get me to and fro where I got to go. But when I went outside, my car wasn't there. But my main focus was screw the car. Screw the car. My main job is to be with the brothers. I want to be with the brothers. I want to be amongst these individuals. And it made me think about it after I was meditating on the dream. You know, should nothing keep us from having spiritual discourse and have holy conversation? All right, to really just be in the spirit and be amongst the congregation. Now, obviously, there are certain of you all that are out there that might be by yourself in the flesh, but obviously and ultimately, we're amongst a very heavenly unit of individuals. We're amongst a very heavenly body. And once you have that spiritual discourse, and once you're in this circle, all right, heavenly places, as is read in Ephesians, the 2nd chapter, the Lord is in the midst of you. The angels are in the midst. Even as it's written, when 2 or more are gathered in my name, I am in the midst of thee. So I'm going to bring out just a few precepts to back it out, because the first thing that happened as pertaining to the vision were the chariots, you know, and I'm going to bring this precept out here in Psalms. And this is in the book of Psalms, chapter, hold on one sec. This will be in the book of Psalms, chapter 68, verse 17. And it says, the chariots of the Most High are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord is amongst them, as in Sinai in the holy place. And when those clouds dispersed, you know, it's like behind those clouds, hiding inside those clouds pretty much, were thousands and thousands and thousands of chariots. You know, thousands of them. And then another precept that I want to bring out is also going to be in the book of Psalms. And it's also going to be in the book of Psalms chapter, let's see here. It's in Psalms chapter 100 and 104 and 3. And I'm actually going to start at verse 1. And it reads, bless Yahweh, O my soul, O Yahweh, my power. Thou art very great. Thou art clothed with honor and majesty, who coverest thyself with light as with a garment, who stretchest out the heavens like a curtain, who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters. And when you go into that, it's really just going into the heavens. All right. It says, who maketh the clouds his chariot, who walketh upon the wings of the wind, who maketh his angels spirits, his ministers of flaming fire. And reason why I brought this precept out, going into the chariots and how it said, who maketh the clouds his chariots. And those chariots are in those clouds. All right. Now, they're also called clouds on certain scriptures, but that's talking about those vehicles. OK. And as those clouds started dissipating in that vision, there was thousands of chariots that were disguised behind those clouds. OK. And you also have certain chariots that can literally change shape. They can change how they look. Certain of them can actually look like clouds. I remember the Sequan Quahala from out there in Missouri, of the Missouri camp. I remember he had done a show a while back, and it was pretty much some astronauts in a space station. They was fixing something, and there was a cloud that was coming towards them. But as it got closer, it changed its look to an actual ship, you know. And that's what it made me think about when I saw the clouds dissipate and saw all those chariots behind those clouds. Now, another precept that I want to go into is going to be in the book of Ezekiel, the 1st chapter. And when you go into that, that's the account that Ezekiel saw the glory of the Lord. He had bear witness to the glory of the Lord in a vision. All right. And in that vision, he was amongst the river Kabar, which was a Babylonian river. And that also represents us being in servitude and being in slavery. That's why it's written of in Psalms 137, by the rivers of Babylon did we hang our harps and wept. All right. And it's also written of in Judges, the 5th chapter, in the places of drawing water, there shall we rehearse the righteous acts. So when you go to that account in Ezekiel, the 1st chapter, he's having a vision of him being in Babylon. And when you go into the chariots and the creatures that came amongst him, that was a representation of the glory of the Lord, all right, hovering over him, because that glory used to dwell over the temple when we had the tabernacle and we had the temple. But there was so much wickedness that was being done. And there was already an understanding that the Lord doesn't dwell in temples made with hands. So when he had that vision of the glory of the Lord, seeing that chariot coming over him, that acted as a representation of the glory not dwelling in the actual temple with hands, but dwelling in us, dwelling over us as we're in the land of captivity. And that's what it made me think about as we were all congregated together and we bore witness to the glory. Like, that was glory that we saw, you know, in the part of Ezekiel 1 that made me think about it. Because you remember I mentioned the stones, those amethyst stones that was hovering and they were pulsating, giving out light like they were alive. Now in Ezekiel, it wasn't an amethyst stone, but when it goes into the glory of the Lord, let's get it. I'm going to just read this in Ezekiel 1:26. It says, I'm going to actually start at verse 25, and it reads, and there was a voice from the firmament that was over their heads when they stood and had let down their wings. And above the firmament, there was over their heads was the likeness of a throne, as the appearance of a sapphire stone. And upon the likeness of the throne was the likeness of the appearance of a man above it, above upon it. Now, I'm not saying that we saw the likeness of a man that was above these stones, but the simple fact that there were floating stones. All right. What Ezekiel saw right here was literally the appearance of the Lord's glory, you know, and his throne was likened as the appearance of a sapphire stone, you know, and sapphire is like a blue stone. OK, when you look at sapphire, another name for it is lapis lazuli. All right. And that's that blue stone, and different traits. All these different stones have different spiritual benefits to them. But I know one of the benefits spiritually for lapis is wisdom, you know. Now, again, in this vision, it wasn't lapis. It wasn't sapphire. It wasn't blue. But this was purplish pink. These were amethyst stones that were glowing and they were pulsating. Now, I don't know if that angel flew off from those. I can't tell you. I don't know. But I do know that after we saw those amethyst stones, we saw this angel with a very crucial glow. All right. You could tell that you could see the glory of the throne radiating from him. You could see the glory of the heavens radiating off of him. And it gave off that glow, man. And this last precept, I'm actually, you know what? Even before I bring out the last one, I want to bring out another precept going into the sapphire. Well, you know what? No, you know, it's all good. That was pretty much the point. But I'm going to finish off here on this precept in Psalms 34. And this is Psalm 34:7. I'm going to actually start at verse 6. And it says, this poor man cried, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of his troubles. The angel of the Lord encampeth round about them that fear him, and delivereth them. O taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man that trusteth in him. And that's exactly what happened. That was the angel of the Lord that was encamped round about men that feared him and that trust him and that are calling on and glorifying in his name. And when we detach from these particulars, when we detach from these unessentials that really don't have too much spiritual relevance to us, and you replace that time and substitute that time to maybe studying, to have spiritual discourse with the fellow believer, to delve into spiritual matters, what it's going to do is it's going to build up your relationship with the Lord more, and you're going to get close to him. As it's written of in James, the 4th chapter, in the 8th verse, draw nigh unto me, and I shall draw nigh unto him, and he shall draw nigh unto you. And that's why I mentioned detaching, because that's pretty much what happened with that car. I wasn't really tripping on that car. You know, if somebody's car gets stolen, obviously it's a big deal. And best believe if you're getting ready to go, you know, fellowship or do what you got to do, if your car gets stolen, 9 times out of 10, you're going to hit brothers up and be like, look, my car got stolen, man. I got something I got to handle. Now, obviously, if your car gets stolen, that's a big deal. And I'm not saying, oh, man, screw your car, still go with the brothers. No. But I believe the spiritual meaning was the fact of detaching and still putting the spiritual thing first, keeping the spiritual things first, you know, and keeping the spiritual things first. The Lord will show his face to you in different ways. And it might not necessarily be an angel. It might not necessarily be chariots. But when I say him to show his face upon you, things are going to be revealed unto you when you draw nigh unto him, because he is drawing nigh unto you, you know. So I'm going to end it off on that. I was very excited when I remembered the dream. I was so excited. I talked to a few brothers about it. And as I mentioned, I was on the phone with the priest Benaiah, and we was talking about it. And I was like, man, I don't even know if I want to do a lesson on it. And you know, and I was like, you know what, should I think I might do a lesson on it. And when I mentioned that, there was a car that passed by that said 444, you know, and I didn't say anything out loud at that moment. But as we're talking about it and going back and forth, I was like, man, that's a spirit. Yeah, I think I'm going to do a lesson on it. And right when I said it again, another car that passed by that had 144 on it. And I was like, and that's when I told the brother, like, bro, a car just passed, said 144. You know, and I'm on my way to work talking to the brother. And as I'm getting in the parking lot, we talking about it. And we were both like, yeah, the spirit is definitely pushing to talk about it and do a lesson. And when I said it, I passed by a car that had 144 on it that was parked. You know, and in the midst of me telling the brother that I passed by another car that had 144 on it, on the brother's dashboard on his car had 144. So ultimately, the spirit was poking me to do this lesson. You know what I'm saying? And man, when you detach, mighty things happen. Mighty things happen. And it's going to come to a point where we're all going to literally have to detach from the internet, detach from all these things anyway, which is only going to get us closer to the Lord. But even when we have the ability to detach from certain things that we might be used to doing, and they might not necessarily be things that are wicked, you know, but you might have patterns where you might have a period of time where you might be overindulging in this particular thing more than you usually do. And when you detach from it and you cut it off, you mortify that member for that moment, it's only going to be spiritual growth that's going to take place, and your eye is going to be more single. And when your eye is going to be more single, your whole body is going to be more full of light. And when your whole body is more full of light, you have more of the scope or the vision of spiritual things. That vision gets increased, you know. So I'm going to end it off there. Lord's willing, this was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to our apostles and elders, a great millstone, and peace and blessing to you elect, fulfilling your lots in all truth and all sincerity. Shalom.